How many of you think India could lead the global economy in the future? Oh, are they right? Start with you, Shabana.
So I didn't see too many hands up there.
Exactly.
No, but the problem is your words.
Oh, that's right. Blame the question.
I do think that you know, when you ask a question like lead, it's a word of conflict. And what we should be looking at if our leaders don't manage to blow us up in the near future, then it'll be.
You're really cheerful.
No, it's a future of shared responsibility. And I think our Prime Minister said that. Shared responsibility is a much better word. Instead of saying that one will lead the other, it's, you know, that's, you're challenging them. It's a conflicting word.
Oh, that comes under the rubric of cheap shot.
It's you, Richard. We were warned.
Sorry?
We were warned.
You were warned, and one thing I've learned is never tangle with Indian women. Particularly, you'll always lose in the end. Sunil, the idea, though, of the role that you see for India on the global economic stage, how would you define it?
So in my way, the answer to your first question is yes and no.
Oh, that's a typically Indian answer.
And there's a reason for it. Yes, because there is clearly areas in which India will lead, but depending on how far into the future you're asking this question, there is still work to be done. We are working on things like infrastructure, on education, on healthcare. Some of the basic needs have not reached all of India. At the top end, we've done an outstanding job. We have among some of the best healthcare systems in the world, but only at the top end. Our education system produces some of the best talent in the world. And it's the same with the economy. If you look at Indian companies at the top, they are global companies which want to stand up and be counted in the world. But there is a lot of work to be done, especially for small and mid-sized enterprises, which is the reason I said yes and no. So I think this is going to work.
So, my opinion, the future really belongs to India. And the reason being very clearly that one side, you have the world which is changing, transforming because of all the changes in technology. And if all the changes in technology are happening, and if India has that soft power, it is for us to leapfrog. It is for us to redefine healthcare, redefine education, redefine energy. I mean, you name the sector, and I think that is India's opportunity.
I agree with every word you've said. But in the 15 to 20 years that I've been going to India, I've heard it said before. And somehow at the last, and great progress has been made, but never sufficient progress to justify the amount of time and hot air that's spoken about it.
Not quite true right now, actually.
Go ahead, tell me I'm wrong.
If you see, yeah, you are. So if you see what's going on right now, so
don't mince your words, please.
India has currently taken on some of the most ambitious infrastructure projects ever even conceived on this planet. Things like what we call the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, and there are 4 others like this one, which will connect Delhi and Mumbai through a high-speed freight corridor and develop 100 miles either side of this, including multiple smart cities coming in there as well. Mm-hmm. And these are all specialized projects. So one city will be designed around agri-products, one on high-end manufacturing, one on education. So you're kind of predefining a cluster effect. And as you know, it's been proven over and over again in the world that the clusters have the best multiplier effect. And if you look back in history, only 2 times, even the large economies like US, has just had a bump up 2 times when you created railroads, physical connectivity, and then the digital highways. India is making all of that investment today as we speak.
You know, I agree with what Sunil and CP have said, But we have to look at, the challenges that we have and the rest of the world has. If you look in, most of the world has stopped growing. The world population will even out at about 8.5 billion people, and India will still be growing a decade after other countries have stopped, which means in the foreseeable future, in the next 20, 25 years, about 40% of people under the age of 30 will be Indians. So I think that is a shared world responsibility that we do have to educate them. We have to keep them healthy. More than anything, we have to provide jobs. And this is where it comes from, that we have to think rural, we have to think urban, and all this hot air has to, the reason that it's urgent for us, but it doesn't look to the rest of the world, is because really we are a supermax ship. 1.2 billion people, it's not easy to see results that you can of, places, city-states that I've been to. With this, you can see the results, palpably within a decade. In India, it takes a generation. And maybe for us, it's taking 2 generations.
Right, but CPU, how do you ensure that the improvements, or at least the move forward, continues and doesn't get stymied by bureaucratic infrastructure obstacles, that government continues the promises that it's made?
I think, Richard, I can only say when you spoke about the last 20 years, I would like to say one of the things that has changed in the last few years is the goal congruence. The goal of, so I'll give you an example. There was a white paper released about 2 months ago, which said, can India create for itself a $1 trillion digital economy? Now, that white paper was released by a close collaboration between government, between academia. In India, very rarely, academia has participated in that kind of a thought leadership, and the industry. So my personal opinion is that this is one time when India is literally firing on all 16 cylinders. And it is not just, we are seeing the upliftment in the rural economy, we are seeing in the soft powers, which is knowledge-based economy, and we are also seeing digital as well as the manufacturing all working together.
Also, if you see, in the last 20 or 30 years, we've had every kind of political party in government, extreme left, extreme right, and every color in between. The direction has not changed. There is a common understanding now amongst leaders in India that the only answer we have available is growth, and our biggest challenge, the biggest challenges offer some of the biggest opportunities. So the big challenges were lack of physical infrastructure, too much red tape and bureaucracy, corruption in the system.
Right. But if you're right, and we've already heard from the previous panel, from the Secretary and the Fund, that infrastructure is being addressed, and the Secretary talked about the amount of red tape that is being gotten rid of, then pretty soon those cylinders that you've just referred to should not only be firing, they should be turbocharged, are they?
They are. If you see it, we've been growing at 7+ for several years now. The possibility is to take it to 8. Actually, the opportunities exist that we will continue to be the fastest growing country for, I think, the next 10, 15, 20 years. And those opportunities are there. Adding to what Sunil said, it's not just about the collective of India, but it's also the states that are firing those cylinders, and they're competitively challenging each other to do better.
Questions? Anybody? Questions from our guests in front of us on India's role in the 21st century? Raise your hand if you've got a thought. Yes, sir. You're at the front. Well, do you have a microphone? Well, go on. You shout your question and I'll... Hang on. Oh, we've got a microphone on its way to you. Right.
Hello, can you hear me? My name is Nadeem, and I'm representing one of the experiences in the edge of the government beside this chamber hall. My question is that we have been trying to expand in terms of sustainability in various countries. We deploy noise sensors on blockchain technology. Our partners and our co-founders are from different countries. I'm the Indian member in the team, but when we talk about deploying this kind of technology in India, the mindset and the reception I get is, no, let's take that later. Currently, we are doing a pilot in Netherlands. We're planning to do in Dubai. So the question is, where are the right channels to approach for startups and innovative companies like us in the Indian? And it's directly related to cryptocurrency and economy because the customers are paid in real time.
Right.
So what's the right channel to approach?
This government actually started a cell under Ramesh Abhishek. It's called Invest India. They have a complete setup there in Delhi to talk about startups, because we do believe we'll be the largest startup nation in the world. It's not just that we have to find jobs and opportunities for so many Indians, and a lot of it will come from startups. So please get to Invest India. You can Google it, and you'll find that they'll handhold you right through.
Have you tried them?
Not yet. So we are already,
the
just for your information, we are already the third largest startup nation in the world and growing quite rapidly. These are actual numbers right now. That's available if you check these out. And Shobna's right, there are plenty of opportunities right now to get in there and both look for funding and look for opportunities. There's no guarantee that you'll get it, which is true anyway.
I don't think anybody doubts. I certainly, in all my visits CP to India over many years, nobody doubts the entrepreneurial spirit. I mean, somebody will find a way to make a market or sell something in India like no other nation on earth. I guess the question is, they often seem to succeed in spite of the regulations and the obstacles. It's just very difficult to do it, to succeed.
Again, and we are not denying it. When it came to ease of doing business, we moved up the notches, but we are not the easiest nation to do business with. So we all realize it. Having moved that many notches only tells you that India is determined to become more global and an easier business community. Number two is, just to give an example, it is not only Invest India. The environment clearly recognizes that if we have to create jobs that we have to create for our youth, then we need to encourage entrepreneurship even more. So currently there is no college, there is no management school in which there is no entrepreneurship cell.
Right. You just said we have a question. Yes. Hang on, we'll get you a microphone.
Hello.
Hello.
Strategies to use emerging technologies like blockchain, artificial intelligence for development, and how to achieve this between business and government.
What's the problem?
Business tends to lag, and there's a tension between enabling innovation but regulating it, particularly, for example, with artificial intelligence, which can have downside risks for security and privacy, and how India can specifically leverage these for development in a cooperative method.
And not only is the government thinking about it, but all of us in private enterprise are thinking about it. And for us, we're doing it at an unprecedented scale. Just to give you a point case in point, we're in the healthcare industry. And no other healthcare enterprise in the world has every piece, from health insurance right up to the last mile delivery. We're bringing all that together and applying analytics, and everyone in the world is looking at what we're doing. And I think this will happen in many cases where every industry in India will come together because Indians actually understand technology. We leapfrog over computers to mobiles.
But it would be a shame if, having gained such a huge benefit on that first digital revolution, India did not build on its lead with AI and blockchain revolution.
It's happening rapidly.
So the work is on already actually.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
I think, again, to take things in context, one is take into account India is the consumption-led society. Number two, take into context is it is not artificial intelligence, it is the enhanced or the extra intelligence that you bring in. Now, if I have to use the current social norms and what is available. There is nowhere in the world, whether it is a bank or a healthcare or an education, where this technology is being deployed, including Dubai, where India Incorporated is not involved. India Incorporated is part of that change. India Incorporated is more than often leading the development of the technology, and more than anyone else, I think India Incorporated, you would hear it from the government.
But to be fair to the question.
The trump card in that is that you must understand that India is actually the most open economy. Here's an economy where Google will play with Tencent, and we allow everything in there. So I do think that in future, India will also be the great modeling ground of how e-commerce or any of these blockchain technologies can take.
Well, we don't want to overstate how open India is. There are many parts of the Indian economy that are not.
No, I would agree. That's the point I was going to make. To be fair to the question, there is a lot of work to be done. At this moment, we are behind, and I think we've begun to recognize that. Earlier, we were almost blind to the fact, or at least we wouldn't acknowledge we're behind. It is clear that there's work to be done, and that's why this becomes an interesting opportunity. Both the realization and seeing how this gap is clear, and how Indian entities are going and doing this overseas for other countries and other countries. So it's a real opportunity out there.
Sunil, the impact all over the world is only beginning. So
Correct.
I don't think India is really behind. It is just that, for example, in manufacturing sector, when you're doing Industry 4.0, I think what you would see in Hero Motors or Mahindra, the automation of the factories is almost at par with the Japanese or the Americans.
Yeah, we're probably a little ahead compared to many of them, actually.
So why is the perception otherwise?
So we are very poor communicators. So this is actually one of our problems. We've not communicated well the kind of program that's been on in India for the last some years now, that there's a transformational set of initiatives going on. And we've done a lousy job of telling the world about this, actually.
Do you agree?
I don't know whether it is only poor communication. Let's also again remember India is that same 1.25 billion people. Now, Indian government is also those 29 states. India is 450 cities. Those mayors they work at a different pace. So, to categorize India as one homogeneous mass, I think is the biggest difficulty.
The definition of success is very different in India because of the scale.
Right, so finish off with that. Let's finish off with that. No, don't get up yet. CP, what is your definition of success for India?
Our Prime Minister says ease of living. You may say ease of business. But relatively, I think if we are able to cover the untapped 500 million people, I think that would be success for India. There is a lot more work to make it inclusive. There is a lot more work that needs to be done to bring those cities and the blocks and the rural towns into mainstream.
Your definition of success?
68% of India lives in the rural areas. 54% depends on agriculture as a primary source of income. If the rural economy can become more dynamic, India would be an engine firing not on 4, but on multiple engines. And this would be a bigger growth market than all of Europe put together, and North America put together, but a completely different price line.
No pressure, you get the last word. You mentioned success, your definition of success.
It's easier for me because I'll ride on both theirs, which I totally agree. But I also think that India, at this point of time, also needs to play the world game. So we need to be responsible enough to be able to take more of this.
Hang on.
So we'll
play the world game.
We have to be open.
But you just started our discussion by saying you don't want to lead.
It's shared. So India will work with the rest of the world. That's why we open up our economy. But we do expect that as we import, we will be allowed to export and create those markets. So I think that jobs will depend on that. I think that the ability to bring in education and healthcare from all parts of the world and good things, to ride on exactly what both of them said, because India will continue to be the world's most exciting market. And I think that itself will create the future.
India continues to be the world's exciting market. Ladies and gentlemen, our panel, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.